How's it going, guys? RNG Live here, and today we're going to be talking about some of the new support cards in the new set that's coming out called Dawn of Destiny. Alright, so Dawn of Destiny is going to be a mini box. I'm pretty sure a lot of you guys have already heard of it, since they did tell everybody on Duel Links. They put out an update saying that it's coming out. So I didn't really feel the need to really cover it, since it was pretty public. But today we're going to be talking about some of the URs and SRs, or probably all the URs because there's only two. We're going to be talking about the URs and SRs and how viable they would be. And we're talking about a bunch of cool combos with those cards. First of all, we're going to be looking at the URs because we are looking at, I guess, the boss monster. Sacred Phoenix of Nephthys. This card is like a boss monster to like a fire type deck. I know there was like a kick fire type deck that was going around. I actually wanted to use on the channel, but I don't know. I don't know if this is going to be compatible with the kick fire version because it does destroy all the stuff, but I think it destroys. The actual effect of this card is, during your next standby phase, after this card was destroyed by a card effect and sent to the graveyard, special summon this card from the graveyard. When you do, destroy all spell and trap cards on the field. Alright, so that does not work with kick fire because it's going to obviously get rid of it. So, I don't know. I don't think it's going to work with that build, but there's definitely going to be some other type of build. I know they did add a lot of Fire King support. The Fire King support is like Fire King Island, and I think, what was it? Fire King Avatar Corinne and Yaksha, I believe. I think it also has its own support, which is like Hand of Nephthys, which is a monster that just lets you special summon it. So, it does have some support. And they did put in quite a few fire cards, too. Like, a few fire support cards that actually might work with this deck. I know it works well with cards like Goka and, what was that guy's name? That Titan guy. I'll put up his picture right here. But, I don't remember his name at the moment. But yeah, like these cards that destroy your own fire cards, they work really well. Next up, the only other UR in this set, which is another like equally good or even possibly better card, we're looking at Tribute to the Doomed. That card is really good. Basically, discard a card, destroy one monster on the field. It could definitely work with Phoenix. You target your own Phoenix to destroy it, it comes back, and then it blows up the field. Yeah, I think that'd be pretty cool play. I think that's why they're throwing it in here, like, randomly. But yeah, Tribute to the Doomed is another really good card. Also, if you're not using it for your own plays to get all your stuff off, you can also just use it to get over an annoying monster. Moving on from that, we're gonna go ahead and talk about some of the SRs now. To start off, let's go ahead and talk about the Dark Hex Sealed Fusion, which I know we have the Hex Field, the Hex Earth, I think. So we have the Earth version of this already in the game. It was a card trader card, but the Dark one lets you pretty much do some crazy dark shenanigans. The Earth one you can use usually to bring out Master of Oz, where if you have like Just Kangaroo on the field and you summon it, tribute them both, and you could just special summon the fusion monster from the extra deck. It doesn't count it as a fusion summon, it actually counts it as a special summon, so you won't be getting those fusion bonus at the end. Same thing with the dark version, except some of the dark targets that I was looking at, because I was looking at ways to make this card cool. I did think of a cool deck idea for using this card with Dark Magician and stuff, because in this box, they do give us a rare. One of the rares is a card called Dark Flare Knight. Dark Flare Knight, it is an interesting card as well. Dark Flare Knight is basically a fusion of Dark Magician and Flame Swordsman, which is kind of weird. Who'd want to use Flame Swordsman in a fusion? That's what I originally thought. I thought this card is garbage. Why would you even use this card? You're not going to summon Flame Swordsman just to fuse. But obviously you can substitute the fusion. You can use the Dark Hex sealed guy, or you could just use any fusion substitute monster you have. It is a dark, so it can be summoned that way if you do have a Dark Magician on the field, maybe with like a 3-star demotion deck. Dark Flare Knight's effect is you have to use a Dark Magician and Flame Swordsman to fuse it. Somebody might be thinking it's a 2200, it's weaker than Dark Magician, but its effect does state that you take no battle damage from battles involving this card. So if this card is run over, you don't get hurt by it being run over. So but you're thinking, oh, it's a 2200 monster, so what's the point? But if this card is destroyed by battle and sent to the graveyard, you can special summon one Mirage Knight from your hand or deck. From the deck. Mirage Knight is actually one of the SRs in this set. And Mirage Knight is... It's cool, but it's like very situational. It's very situational. Like I said, it's one of those cards where if you pull it off, it can win you games. This card is like that quality of card. It's really strong, but it's usually going to be dead. I mean, if you draw it, it's probably not a good idea to draw it, so I would run maybe just one copy of it. But it is a really cool card in the sense that it can be brought out by Dark Flare Knight's effect. If you draw it, you cannot normal summon it. You can't special summon it by any other ways. It has to be brought out by Dark Flare Knight's effect. But once it does come out, the play I was thinking about using with Dark Magician and the fusion, basically, you fuse Dark Magician with whatever fusion substitute card you want to run. You don't necessarily need the SR from this set. So you make Dark Flare Knight, and then you can go ahead and run that Dark Flare Knight into one of your opponent's stronger monsters, because that's usually the reason you would be trying to run this. You're going to want to go for this play when your opponent's got something bigger on the field. Seeing as how the new Dragon Structure decks came out, you're probably going to be going up against a lot more Blue Eyes. So let's say your opponent does have a Blue Eyes on the field. You go for your play, Polymerization, Dark Flare Knight comes out, attack Dark Flare Knight into Blue Eyes, your monster dies, your opponent's monster is completely safe. Then you get to go ahead and bring out Mirage Knight, who is a 2800. You'd be thinking, oh, he's still weaker than Blue Eyes, but his effect does state, when he does battle, during the damage calculation of this card gains attack equal to the original attacking the opponent's monster it's battling. So bam, right off the bat it gains 3000 if it's fighting with Blue Eyes. So it would gain 3000, leaving it at 5800. So it's pretty much going to be a direct attack with that 2800 monster. I mean, you don't necessarily need to power it up in any way, but a 2800 attack, like a direct attack, that's usually going to be game. I mean, if you're going to hit them, if they've already taken some damage, then GG. But this card basically lets you get in one free hit. I mean, you still are susceptible to your opponent's back row. So, I mean, if they do have a mirror wall or something, it doesn't say it lowers your opponent's monster to 0 or anything. So, you just gain their attack and then attack over it, like Riryoku, but except you don't weaken them. So, it can be shut down easily. I'm trying to think of a good combo to actually be able to use it, but I don't know. It's still a pretty cool card, and it's like a really cheesy play where it can go off and be really cool. But yeah, you basically run it over, deal 2800 direct, and then at the end of the end phase, basically, this guy gets banished. He banishes at the end phase, so you basically lose everything. So you want to make that your last attack. And I think that's pretty cool. I think in this kind of deck, what I would run it with maybe like triple Red Eyes or something, or maybe double Red Eyes, maybe triple, I don't know. But maybe Red Eyes and the Red Eyes draw cards. So you can use the Red Eyes as a draw engine, and then if you do end up having a Polymerization, you can use your substitution card to fuse for a Meteor Black Dragon or a Black Skull Dragon, whichever one, making like an effective fusion deck, and then maybe even fuse it to make a Dark Paladin, Dark Flare Knight, whichever one you want to play and go for. It would be a pretty interesting fusion deck. And moving on, now that we pretty much talked about that, I'm gonna say it's kind of an irrelevant engine, but I did look at it and I thought it was pretty cool. But yeah, moving on, I'm gonna be talking about some other stuff. They did show off some cards. I know they showed off, like, I think Magical Exemplar, who, I mean, it's okay. It's basically some spell counter support card, which, I mean, sure, it's a good spell counter support card. It's like a 1700 spellcaster. Every time they cast a spell or they use a spell card, it gains 2 counters instead of 1. And then you get to pretty much throw those counters off, and you get to special summon I guess a spellcaster with that level, or with equal level of things you throw away. So it could be a good way to get you into like special summoning some stuff. But at that point, I don't know how well it's going to be able to survive. Maybe if you run a lot of econs to protect it. I think spell counters are pretty slow. Even this card, it's not a fast card. It's still a pretty slow card. You have to summon it and then use 2 spells to be able to special summon a level 4. So, I mean, even then, I don't know how great it's going to be. Some other really cool cards in this set, we have Skull Conductor, which I have been looking into it. Skull Conductor is one of those zombies that I think Bakura was using, where it's basically a 2000 attack, I think 0 defense, 4-star zombie. He can stop a bullet. He can stop a bullet once, and so he can run over one thing, and then he dies at the end phase. Or the reason it's a good card, because of its second effect, you can actually send him from your hand to the graveyard and special summon up to 2 zombies whose total attack equals 2000. It does say up to 2, so I think something cool you can use is you can actually use this to special summon Vampire Lord. So it definitely boosts up like the zombie Vampire Lord type decks. So you can use this guy to bring out Vampire Lord, then start off all your Vampire Lord shenanigans. So I think that's one really cool card if you want to go for the whole zombie route. Another really interesting card that I really like is Heavy Knight of the Flame, which is a Gemini, but it is an 1800 4-star fire type monster. So it's going to come out like a normal monster, so all the order to charge plays, they work with it. Another really cool card that is in this set is Molten Destruction, which does work with Heavy Knight of the Flame, because it's basically a field that powers up your fired monsters by 500 attack, which is pretty crazy. So it gives him 500 attack. He's able to pretty much run over whatever your opponent's got. You can run a whole bunch of stuff in a type of deck like this. You can use them with Sergeant Electro, who will end up becoming a 2100 with that field. I mean, it's pretty crazy. I think that fire support is going to be really awesome. I do think we do have some beatdown capabilities if we do run the whole Molten Destruction with a bunch of fire type monsters. The Heavy Knight of the Flame, that guy is pretty cool, because once he does get his effect, because he is a Gemini, I'm bouncing all over the place, but this guy is a Gemini, and his effect basically states at the start of the damage step, well, when this guy actually has his effect, at the start of the damage step, if this card attacks a special summon monster, you can banish that monster. This is why I think this card is good. That Heavy Knight of the Flame is a pretty good card, because it automatically counters one card that is actually getting pretty strong, and that is Tunes. It actually does counter Tunes pretty perfectly. I mean, you can bring it out, attack into a stronger monster, and it just banishes it. That's why I think this card is pretty cool. I don't know, I think if anything, I would want multiple copies of this card. Other cards we're going to be looking at, Super Rush Headlong, which is another really interesting card that kind of came out of nowhere. And the way this card works, it's basically a kind of card that lets you get over whatever you want. It's a quick play too, that's why I think that's what makes it good. Its effect is basically, you target one face-up monster you control and declare one attribute. If that target battles an opponent's monster with that attribute this turn, destroy that opponent's monster at the start of the damage step. So, once again, it's before the damage step, so it gets rid of it without applying the damage. So, your opponent can have a big beater monster. Once again, let's go for the blue eyes analogy. They got a big blue eyes on the field. You use this card, you use it on your monster, you attack into the blue eyes, it kills it because you say that you target dragons or whatever. So you declare an attribute. I am not 100% sure. I think that means light or dragon. I'm not 100% sure, but it's basically you target the attribute of the card that is up on your opponent's side of the field, and you can always get over it. Since it is a quick play, you can also use it to chain to them attacking you. So you can put up a face-up monster, whatever it could be, whatever, and your opponent attacks into you thinking they have an advantage. Then you chain Super Rush Headlong, and you will always kill your opponent's monster. But I think Super Rush Headlong is another one of those really good cards that you should definitely look forward to. I think we only have one more SR to cover, and that is Eel Blood. I guess that's how you pronounce its name, Eel Blood. And that card, I think, what's his face was using it too, Bakura. And it's another one of those Gemini monsters. You have to tribute it, but its effect, once you do go ahead and make his Gemini effect activate, it's basically you can special summon one zombie monster from your hand, or from either player's graveyard. When this card leaves the field, destroy all zombie monsters special summoned by this card's effect. Once again, that card will kind of work with Vampire Lord and stuff, so it does do that. I mean, even if you're running it with like the Red Eye Zombie Dragon build, maybe you can even use it with that. So if your Red Eye Zombie was destroyed and sent to the grave, I think that's one way to make use of it. But it is a Gemini, so it is a bit slow. I mean, you probably have to start running those double summons. I think it's okay. It's a pretty okay tech card. I mean, I wouldn't focus the deck around it. I think Skull Conductor is a lot better because it's a lot quicker. But that one would only work with Vampire Lord. I mean, if you're going for a straight up like zombie build that will get you, I guess, make your deck survive even longer, then yeah, sure, Eel Blood could work. I mean, aside from that, some of the rares are okay, I guess. They added quite a few Naturia cards, so the Naturia archetype is looking pretty strong, or at least it's looking pretty expansive. They've added a lot of Naturia stuff. So we have a lot of insects and plants being added. We have some more zombie stuff, like with Vampire Baby, Vampire Lady. So that's another thing that's pretty cool. They've added a lot of fire, I think. So I mean, they've added a lot of really interesting stuff. They added this ninja card, Red Dragon Ninja, that looks pretty cool too. I think it basically sends one card, one face down card to the bottom of your opponent's deck, or top or bottom, and they cannot chain activation to it or something. So that's a pretty cool card. But they're all rares, so don't expect them to be overpowered or anything. But yeah, they just look pretty interesting. I mean, they do have another one that I wanted to talk about called Puzzle Reborn, which is basically if your monster is destroyed, and it is the only thing destroyed, so if they activate possibly in order to charge and destroy your monster, you get to chain this card. You can chain Puzzle Reborn and it comes right back. I kind of like this set, to be honest. I mean, there's a lot of new stuff. We're definitely going to be seeing a buff to very specific types of decks: wing beasts, zombies, plants, and insects, or plant/insects, since it's all Naturias. I mean, we are getting Hazy Flame stuff as well, which I think it all goes together with the fire support. But when it does come out, I'll definitely go ahead and make a video on it and cover, maybe even pull and see what I can get. Alright, but anyway, thank you guys for watching today. Have a great day, and see you guys.